Hi there, welcome to video 4 of the Cessna 152. This time it's Axis and Ohs, of course, and we're looking at the X-Touch and the allocation of the buttons. So just as a reminder, this is where we left off the last one, that we had allocated all of the rotaries and the required press buttons on the rotary knobs, and we've really got all these buttons left unassigned. On other aircraft, it's usually used for the GPS and all the glass cockpit buttons, and we haven't got an autopilot, we haven't got a GPS, so we haven't got any allocations for these. Go back into the actual cockpit. The one instrument we haven't assigned so far is this one here, the transponder. So what I decided to do was to look at, rather than using the Stream Deck for the transponder, which is a bit clumsy, I had a look at doing the transponder back on the X-Touch. So let's have a look at what I allocated. So you've got 4 digits, the thousands, the hundreds, the tens and the units, and so I programmed on layer A, so it's in black and above, 1 click to make it go up on the thousands and 1 click to make it go down on the thousands, same for the hundreds, the tens, the units, and toggling the ident, and that works. I tried to write 2 scripts to change the state of the transponder so that it moved from off to standby to on to altitude, and the script works sometimes, but other times it just fails, and I can't see why it's failing or why it's working. It seems to be totally random whether it's going to work or not. So I'll show you the scripts, but they're totally unreliable. So let's go back and look at the transponder at work. So if I bring up the flight simulator, and I'll bring in my camera so you can see my actual Stream Deck working. So these are the knobs here that I'm emulating first of all, with the thousands up and the thousands down. That's really the end of it. It only goes up to 7 is the highest digit, because it's like an old 8-bit type, so 0 to 7. So I'm on bank A, and so this will take the thousands down and up, and same for the hundreds. We can go down and up with those. So, and there's the tens, and there's the units, and we'll see if the script is working. It worked 20 minutes ago when I programmed it up and tested it. Came back to try to do this video and it didn't work, but I've got one button here assigned which should take these through, and if you look at my, I'll show you my Axis and Ohs, bring that across. When I press this button here, you can see that it lights up my script for the transponder up. So it's got the right script there. It's all assigned, it's assigned to that click, so everything there is correct. It should be running that script, and I'll show you the script itself. So let's bring the script in and show you what it should do. And it's in my scripts, and it is the 152 expander up. The transponder is an interesting one. Let's have a look at the transponder at work. Let's watch. We'll watch the variables. Here's the events. And the events are weird. It's quite interesting. Let's get it back to 7,000. So let's have a look at this here. Not very helpful, this one here. If you watch what happens, if I click on this one and move it, let's clear the list. If I move this, you can see the values that it's sending, and if I put this to 0, let's 0 everything. There we go. Right, so it's sending 0. This one here, it sends the digit. It's sending 1, 2, 3. This one here, let's put this back to 0 so it makes it a little clearer what's going on. This one here, 16, 32, 48, 64. So you kind of recognize the numbers that are being used. And if I leave this here on, let's put it if I put this onto 1 and clear the list, and now I'll move the 10s again this time. So it's sending 17, and if I take this down here, it'll be sending 16. So it's kind of adding the two together. Let's just move this through. But this is really not helpful. And let's move that on. So that goes up in 256s. And you can see what happens here. But I won't be using any of those figures. There's a neater way of doing things. So let's bring Axis and Ohs back in. And this time we'll look at the variables that are being used. So let's watch some simulated variables. And if we select the variable for the transponder, sorry, let's have, no, look at the events. Let's look at the events that are available to us. If I go for insert a sim event and look for the transponder events, we've actually got pre-built the expander 1000 increment, decrement, same here for the hundreds, the tens, units. So they're pre-made, and these ones work with these straight away. So if I look at my assignments on here, this one here is the thousands up. I click on there, and there it is. It is just the transponder thousands increment, and that's there. So that put that in, and that's this one here will be the increment, and this one here will be. So there's the increment one, and there's the decrement one. So pre-made functions we can just use, so they're just assigned like that. So there's the hundreds one, that one there is assigned to the 100 increment and decrement, tens, the units. So I'll just assign them across here, increment and decrement there. So it's pretty simple to set up. I've got the ident button here. Only works when it's in on mode or alt or something like that. It has to be in active mode. So if I press the ident button, you can see that's going to ident, and I press it again, this one here, and it will take that off. So that one there is a very simple one. Yeah, if I bring Axis and Ohs in, if I press the ident there, it is just toggle ident. So that's what's been allocated to it, toggle ident, and it's on this click button here, and that just works. That works absolutely fine. Doesn't work when that's alive, of course. So let's turn that off. So there, that's toggling. In fact, it's better than this one here, because this one doesn't toggle. If you press this button here, it switches the ident off, and the only way to turn it off is to turn the whole thing off and on again. So it actually works better, I think, than the real thing. But that's the button there that will pick that to ident. So back to this one here. Let's have a look at this. The variable that we'd be looking at if we were going to watch a variable. Again, let's filter for the transponder. And it's this one here, the transponder state. And we have to index it as number 1. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, because I want to use that again in a minute to show you what's going on. So at the moment it's in state 0 because it's off, and that's state 1. That's state 3. The on is 3. Alt is 4, and test is 2. It's because they've labelled this in a different way to another transponder they use, which goes on standby, off standby, test, on alt, and that's the logical order for the other one. But this one here, they've moved the labels around. So the script that I wrote for it takes that into account. But I said I'll show you something else as well. You see it says enum. We can also change that to just, don't enumerate it, just give us the number, and you'll see that it works just as well with number rather than enumerate it. So the script that I wrote, and if I go into my scripting here, obviously there's two scripts, one to go up through the states and one to go down. I was hoping to just be able to press a button and it would emulate clicking this over one at a time. So for the upward movement, sorry, this one here, for the 152, that if it's in state 0, then tell it to send a 1. So this here is get the value of the transponder, and it's transponder number 1, give it to me as a number, and see if it's equal to 0. And if it is equal to 0, then send a 1 to the transponder state, sending it as a number. If it's in state 1, that's when it needs to move to 3. Remember, it went 0, 1, 3, 4, 2. So if it's a 1, send a 3. If it's a 3, send a 4. If it's a 4, send a 2. And that logic works. I've changed it all to number and updated it. So let's just do an update there. And again, if I press the transponder up, you can see that it's active, it's activating it, but the script isn't working. And try as I might, let's turn it into offline mode, back into online mode. So it was working quarter of an hour, 20 minutes ago, it was all working absolutely fine. Oh, now it's working. So when I press that, it's now working. So I'm really not quite sure what's going on here, and I've got a script obviously to take it downwards. So let's have a look at that script again. It's very similar to the one we had before. This is my scripts. It is transponder down for the 152. So that was up. Let's do down. Sorry, down. If it was a 1, then we want to go down to 0. If it's a 3, we want to go down to 1. If it's a 4, down to 3. If it's a 2, down to 4. This is down to 4. But it's going to go from here to here, from 2 to 4. And so you saw now that script was working a second ago. Let's just check it's still working, and you can see now it's stopped working. So quite bizarre what's going on there. No real idea. Now the scripts have stopped working. So if I go back into Axis and Ohs, and I'll go and just try updating the scripts, not making the actual changes to them, but it was the down one that I looked at last, so we'll update it so we know it's definitely updated, and we'll put it into offline, let it refresh itself, put it back to online, and see if it's working this time. Yeah, this time it's working. So it seems that if I do any programming to it, I need to refresh this completely. I have no real idea why, but it hasn't done it with other scripts or other functions. They continue working. The changing the figures here works. Anyway, that's what I've got allocated for the transponder. So across here, thousands, hundreds, tens, units. I've got the transponder up, transponder down, and the ident button working there, and that works fine. I'm not that bothered with this not working because once you've got it set and you're up and flying, you're not going to fiddle with this particularly anyway. So I usually put it into altitude mode straight away when I'm flying, and that's it. So it's not a big deal, and we can change if they reallocate the numbers. If I cancel the IFR and they give me a different number, we can the numbers stay working, so that's okay. Right, so let's go back into PowerPoint. So that's what I've allocated there on Bank A. So I've got all of Bank B available to me, and I thought, well, the first thing I would try would be to allocate the switches to actual switches on here, so I can turn the lights, the pitter heats, nav strobe beacon. There's 8 of those, and if we look in the cockpit itself, let's go this way. by chance we've got exactly the right number of switches available to us. So I've got it set, and what I'll do is I will also bring in my Stream Deck so you can see what my Stream Deck looks like. This is the software version of it. If I change this now to bank B and I call this lights and radio, lights and sound or something like that, if I turn on, this is the dome light here, you can see that it's pressing the button on here has turned that on here and changed it on here. And the same if I do the pitot heat, on, off, nav lights, so that they're all interlinked, and it's pretty simple to do. There's two parts to it, obviously, because I've got lights coming on here to show me whether it's active as well. So two parts. Firstly is allocating in Axis and Ohs to the switch, and it's exactly the same command that we would use on the Stream Deck. So let's have a look at this. We'll turn the dome light. It sets the cabin lights being toggled. So that's exactly the same as we did before. We're just toggling the cabin lights. This one here will be toggling the pitot heat. So all the same commands, and because it's using the same commands and the same variables, it automatically gets picked up by the Stream Deck as well. So as we turn these on and off, that just works. They just see it. So it doesn't matter whether we use. So if I press this, I'm going to actually press it on my Stream Deck. Let's turn the strobe on the Stream Deck. It's switched on here, and you can see that the light for the strobe has come on here as well. So the two things are completely interlinked. So it's up to you which one you prefer using. But I thought it was interesting to get the experiment going there. What I have got here, of course, is some scripts allocated to the aircraft, these automated scripts that run all the time. And I've got one for the LED for the switches, and I'll come to the radio one in a bit. But I've got these scripts here to make the lights light up for the when I turn switches on and off. So let's have a look at my script for that. So let's bring the script up, and it's there, my LED script for the switches. Let's bring that in together. I could have put two into one script, to be honest with you, but for usability, I don't know what I'm going to do for other aircraft, and it may be that just having the switches will be a useful script to have. But this is what it works. So if we look at this one here, it gets the value for whether the cabin lights are on or not. If it's 0, so it's comparing it to 0, is it equal to 0? If it is, then we're going to send the off command, the 0, and this is how we send it. The arrow here means send it to MIDI, and my MIDI device is number 7, and I've shown you that in previous videos that I need to know on my hardware which MIDI devices I've got, and my output goes to the device number 7 for my X-Touch Mini. Yours may not be 7, so be careful with that. It comes in on 2, but it goes out on 7, and that's how it goes. So my output there, let's bring my scripting back up again, and in my scripts I want my LED switches. So it's going out on MIDI to device number 7, and we're going to send a note on channel 1. Everything outputs always channel 1, and it's bulb 0. It's the bulb that's over here that we're going to be sending to. Okay, so that's my cabin light here that we're sending to. That's bulb 0. If it's not off, it therefore must be on. So if else, we'll send a 1 to the same location, MIDI device number 7, channel 1, bulb 0. And we do the same for the others. We check the pitot heat, and if it's off, we send an off command. And this time we're sending it channel 1 to bulb 1. That's the next one across. Else we'll send a 1 to it. So if it's on, we send a 1. And we do exactly the same for all, exactly the same structure. We just get the value, check if it's off. If it's off, send an off command. If it's on, if it's not, we send the on command. And we just make sure we're routing it to the right bulb. Always the same structure. it's over MIDI. It's to device number 7 for my setup, and we'll be sending it over channel 1 to whichever bot we're sending it to. So that's the script there, and we just allocate that as an automated script for this particular aircraft, so it knows which aircraft we're running, and we just do an automated script there. Pick it up from here, so it's in my scripts, that's where I've put it, and you find the script name and just allocate it. Okay, so let's go back into my PowerPoint. So that's what I've done here on this level here. These are the red ones here. This is on layer B, bank B, and I did the same for the radio stack, so that I can have mic 1, mic 2, and you can see that it does the lights. Both doesn't really work. I've been playing with the both ones. It needs a bit more logic behind it. I'm not that bothered because I don't really want to listen to both anyway. Nav 1, so I'm listening to Nav 1, so we're listening to the Morse code here for that. If I want to hear the Morse code identified for the ADF, that's there. The DME, if I had DME equipment, but I haven't for this one. The marker and the sensitivity, and you can see them working actually here. Let's bring the flight deck up. This is the cockpit. Let's go and have a look at my radio stack. There we go. So here's my radio stack here, and there's 2. Both isn't quite working, but not bothered. There's my nav 1 going in and out, so and the light comes on, and same for nav 2. So you can see here all the buttons getting pressed, and there's my DME. Here's my marker, and then if we just have a quick look over this way here, up here you'll see the sensitivity. So if I that should be working. Let's have a look. It's receiving the information. It's changing it to high but not to low. Okay, I need to look at that script there. Something strange is happening there, but I'll have a look at that in a minute. But anyway, that's pretty much working. But of course I've got the sensitivity here anyway on the if I put my Stream Deck software up for you to see, I've got a sensitivity button here that I can use, so I can turn that on and off. What's behind that one there? It's an on-off button, so I probably got it stuck as a toggle on my X-Touch Mini and hadn't picked that up, that it's not quite toggling. Let's have a look. Let's bring Axis and Ohs into play, and let's keep it at that. Okay, so let's have a look at what's come on. So mic 1 is setting that to 0. Mic 1 is indexed at 0 with a click, so if I want to turn that on, these are on events really rather than toggles. If I go for 2, let's have a look at number 2. If I click on there, pilot transmitter set for the second button across. This one is setting it to 1, which picks up mic 2, so it's 0 indexed, and so 1 is the second one along. At both button, I'm not even sure I've got it allocated anymore. VO1 ident is a toggle, so if I press that, that goes on and off. So there's my nav 1 here, and that toggles on and off because that is a toggle. Nav 2, exactly the same thing. So there's my nav 1, here's my nav 2. So radio VOR2 ident toggle, I just toggles that on and off quite happily. ADF, it's again a toggle, and so is the DME, and the marker is a marker sound toggle. It's just toggling the sound on and off for that. And let's have a look at the sensitivity. It's high. Perhaps I did it as a long click. Yes, I did a long click for the other one. So 1 click brings it to high sensitivity. Long click. Oh, you can see it working now. If you look up here, you can actually see it working. So one click makes it highly sensitive. A long click, and here's that's my ordinary one allocated to the same button, and this one here is the same button, but this time allocated as a long click, which makes it toggle that when that works as an off. So I've got that as a 0 for the off one, and this will be a 1 for the on. So I can send different values depending if it's a long click or not. So that's okay. That's what I've allocated there. So again, I've got lights that come on to say which ones are active there. So that's again an automated script, an aircraft automated script for the radio, and it's pretty much the same as we've seen before. So if we actually look at the script there for the radio, basically it gets the value. Are you transmitting on 1? If not, send a 0, and this is again sending it to MIDI device number 7 over channel 1 to bulb number 8. Or is transmit 2 active? That'll activate that one. There's the sound 1, sound 2 for this is how you do the nav sound. So nav sound 1 for VOR 1, and if that's off, then it will send an off and turn the bulb off. If it's on, it will send a 1 to turn that bulb on. So there's nav sound 1, there's nav sound 2, so we have to type the 2 into index that 2 to get the VOR 2, find out if that's on or not. Here's the ADF sound. Don't need to index it, it just works. So ADF sound, is it on? If it's off, send an off. If it's on, send it on. DME, same. Marker sound, and then here's your marker sensitivity. Marker beacon sensitivity high. If it's off, then it's sending off. If it's on, send it on. So that's the script there. I've left that up long enough. I'm sure you can pause it and have a look at that for yourself. So there's this kind of catch though, that when we're looking for the mic that we're transmitting over, it's indexed as 1 and 2 for mic 1 and mic 2, but when we actually want to use it, they are to set the transmitter, they are 0 index. So when we're transmitting to it, 0 is mic 1, but when we want to read it, 1 is 1. It's just a little thing you've got to watch out for. So that's really it. I've got all my buttons allocated, I've got all my rotaries allocated, I've got it on my Stream Deck pretty much set up. So I've got duplicates here. I can use my radios here or on here. I haven't got the transponder on here, I've just got it on here. Didn't really like the transponder on here particularly. I've got my switches here and on here as well, so I can turn switches on and off on either the hardware device or the my Stream Deck. So that's a choice I've got. So I think the next thing to do would be to have a look and see if I've got to do a test flight. But again, let's bring this across here. Again, you can see, is my script working? How are we going? No, so my scripts have stopped working for this button here. Let's try the offline, online, and see if that brings it back to life for us. So I'm on bank A, and this time doing the offline, online trick has not brought that back to life. Oh, it has now this time. It's unreliable. I just don't know what's going on there, why it's losing that connection. It's the only scripts I've got that are causing that problem. But again, let's have a look at that script, just so you can see what it looks like. So we'll do the out version. Sorry, 152. I've tried changing this to enumerate and to number. It works sometimes, it doesn't work other times. It works best if they're both enum or number. But it has worked and failed in every single state I've tried. If you want to have a go and see if you can get to the bottom of it, I'd love you to leave a comment and tell me what your mileage is, whether it's working for you or not. Okay, next video I think then is a test flight to show everything in operation, and you can see how I use the stacks when I'm flying. Okay, see you soon.